it good? Okay, so this is part 2. We're back with Mom and Dad, and got Devin and Alex here and Ryan. So we're excited to hear some more about their life. Last time, just to kind of, as we look back, we can remember where we're at. But we talked a lot about Mom and Dad's growing up, but we didn't get into at all about marriage. So while Devin and I look at these prompts, we're just going to start easy and say, tell us about how you guys met, your memories of it, and let's start with Mom.
Start with me, okay. I was in an apartment that kind of was a guy magnet, I guess you would say, because we had a roommate that was an excellent baker and a roommate that could play, food. A roommate that could play anything anybody wanted on the piano.
Music.
And so the roommate...
And good-looking girls.
And good-looking girls. And
so you're saying food, music, and girls are the key elements.
That makes it an apartment magnet for guys.
And so we all lived on the same street. It was the street of fourplexes, and people could actually just go by and hear, oh, the piano's going. I bet there's treats, And so they would walk in, and I don't know if you guys planned to come or if they just were part of the walk-in group, but there was a bunch of us that were singing and having treats, and Dad came in with his roommate who was named John Miller, and John was from my hometown. John and I didn't know each other from my hometown, but we got to know each other living close to each other at BYU, and so they came in and started singing and eating with us, and I think Steve thought the treats were almost as good as his mom's.
Close.
But anyway, that was kind of the beginning. That particular day produced two first dates for me. One from him and one from another guy that, if I remember right, was named Steve. So anyway, but
that's written them off.
Yeah.
An important detail.
Yeah, but this was the guy that stuck. So that's kind of where we started. What's your version of it?
Well, I had finished up my schooling at Snow College in December, and so moved into the apartment in Provo in January, and it was because there was an old missionary companion there that I knew, and so I moved in there, and then it was a Sunday night, and this John Miller she talked about said, hey, there's some food and stuff down at this apartment, let's go down. So we went down, and I went in, and being the shy farm boy that I was, I just kind of sat to the side and ate. And then when we left, John said, how would you like to, do you want to date with any of those girls? That one from Twin Falls, I know her. And so I said, yeah. And so called her on the phone that night, right?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was...
She was, and I was beating around the bush to get around to a date, and she had a date coming that night to pick her up.
That was already there.
It was already there.
Oh my gosh. So you're just
Here I am beating around the bush and trying to get to know her a little bit, and all of a sudden she says, well, I kind of need to go, my date's here. And I went, so I asked you out, and you said yes, and away we went.
And your courtship was how long?
From first date to married was 7.5 months.
What stands out about your courtship?
The porch.
Porch. Do tell.
It's getting steamy in here.
I finally got around to getting enough courage up, but I was really very uncomfortable about being out on a porch where there's cars and people walking past, you know. So I kept watching for an opening where there wasn't anybody, and she was starting to get, believe it or not, impatient.
No, not me.
Yeah. So finally, I saw an opening, and I went for it, but it was just a little peck, and she razzed me about that for the longest time. I kept thinking, when in the world are you finally going to do it? And it was because I was embarrassed about doing it with people who knew who would be driving by, somebody I knew, and they going, "Oh, we saw you out on the porch making out."
And our
Case.
apartment was kind of a magnet, and so he couldn't say, "Let's go in and sit down in the living room."
Right, there wasn't privacy there.
There wasn't privacy there, so he had a hard time finding his private moment. But another one that stands out is actually at the bowling alley at BYU. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember going to the bowling alley on a date.
Yeah.
It was a double.
There were, I think, 4 couples.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all were bowling, and I remember that's the first I realized that he was kind of a pushover for doing things, because everybody would say, "Hey, Steve, go get that. Hey, Steve, go get that," and he'd just run and go get it, you know.
It's a pleaser.
Yeah. And anyway, and it was after that date too that we did our big talk, wasn't it?
And we talked about the dating game and how much it was what a pain it was, because by then I'd been home for a year and a half, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always hard to know where you stood and what you had to do next in order to, do you call now or do you wait? So you see if they miss not having a phone call or whatever. And we talked about that, and that was probably the place where we finally figured out that, because we were on the same page on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We just weren't interested in playing the game of, are you interested, are you not? You know, we just wanted to just be kind of straightforward with each other.
At what point would you say, and I'll let each of you talk about it separately, but at what point did you think to yourself, I think this might go somewhere, this might be more than just another girl to date or another guy to date?
I'll go first. When she came up to the sheep herd to see me,
Really?
I figured if she cared enough to figure out how to drive up on the mountain.
This is up Water Hollow.
Wow. Yeah, that's not easy to get to.
I mean, it was on top of that east mountain.
Well, she went multiple
False
places.
memories.
You could have driven your car up Water
I
Hollow.
did drive it up there. I remember driving it up there.
Describe Water Hollow for, I mean,
Water Hollow is the private ground that our family owned and ran sheep on. It's up above Fountain Green. You go toward Nephi on the main road, and then halfway, when you get up on top of the divide, you turn and go up this gravel road, and it keeps getting rockier and rougher and more oak growing in, and it's not a road that you drive something that you didn't want scratched, because when you went up there you got scratched, and I'm surprised because there were ruts in the road that made it to where I don't know how you would have made it through in a car.
she might have
I was
found
really
something.
talented.
Okay. The first time you come up to see me though was in the summer, and we were on the East Mountain,
Okay.
right?
I'm not positive of what the first or second, but I do remember driving the car up to Water Hollow. So anyway, for me, I think the first time I really seriously thought about it, I had a roommate named Charlene Sanders. And she says, you know, Steve's the kind of guy that can just take you by surprise and you realize that you love him. And I thought, is he doing that to me? You know, and I got thinking about it, and it was enough. I had a guy who was on a mission and wanted me to wait for him, and I knew I wasn't going to. but he wanted it bad enough I didn't actually say no. And so it was enough after what Charlene said for me to decide it's time to write the letter. And I wrote the letter telling him I'd met this guy and thought that it might be the one. So I think I had my hopes pretty high, but not my confidence really high that that's who it was going to be. And that would have been, well, we left BYU in April. And so it would have been early April. And we only started dating in February. So didn't take real long.
What about, I don't know that I've heard the story of the actual proposal.
The proposal was at the falls. What do you call them?
Shoshone Falls.
Shoshone Falls. And I had,
That's in Twin, right?
huh?
In Twin. Near Twin.
Yeah, near
in
Twin.
Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
This is near Twin. And should I talk about the roses and the ring?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was going to be really sneaky, and when I got there, I drove up in front of her house in the daylight and went around to the back and put the roses that were in a vase and the diamond ring inside one of the roses. Then I went back out in front, knocked on the door, they came, and when no one was looking, I went out back, got the vase and the roses and put them in an inconspicuous place in the kitchen. And then we went out on a date, and a part of the date was going to the falls and then talking about it and proposing.
And there's lots of kissing and hugging in there too.
And she accepted. And so
So
then,
it was back at the house then?
no, all this happened at the falls in the car.
Oh, okay.
And then we drove back to the house, took her in, and we were sitting there on the couch talking. I said, I got something I want to show you. So I went and got the vase with the flowers in. The ring was in one of the flowers, and I brought them out, and I said, so here you go. And she goes, oh, I really like these flowers. They're great. She couldn't see the ring. So I said, well, look closer at the flowers. There's really something special about them.
He actually had to get me to go to one particular
I had
flower.
to. I said, look in that flower right there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then,
And then this is when he became very disappointed with me because I had not learned how to show emotions very well. And so I looked at the flower and just became mute. I couldn't say anything. I just, you know. And
I
he's,
didn't even see her
wanting,
jaw drop open.
and he's wanting me to, you know,
Go,
do like
"Whoa."
Connie would do her, you know. And it just didn't come naturally, but he learned how to get me to show my emotions more, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So this is jumping forward, but since we're talking about the ring, will you tell the story of your wedding ring, losing it at the rental home and how that all came about? And then we'll hop back, but while we're talking about the ring.
Okay, when we were, we'd finished BYU and we were ready to buy a home. By this time you had your job in Nephi,
Had a job
right?
in Nephi. Couldn't, but we knew we would probably move back to Fountain Green, so we were looking for a house, and we found one to rent, and it was a doozy.
Yeah, it was a dump. It was one that none of you kids would be old enough. Brent and Bart, maybe for sure you were, but barely walking for you. But it actually had an incline on it.
On the floor.
Floors were not flat.
No, they were
No.
not flat. And so
We were
so-
lucky that the doors shut and the roof was still on it.
So the kids would run up the incline and lay down and roll down.
Was that significant?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And anyway, so it was a pretty harsh winter, and so it was not very far away from us moving, and when we went to move, I couldn't find my ring, and it wasn't very far gone, but I decided that one of the kids must have taken it out because, again, when the house had such stability issues, when you kids would go out to play, you would warm your hands at the windows because it was so much heat escaping. And so I just thought one of the kids walked out. Our neighbors were Dean and Annette Hansen, and so after we cleaned the whole house out, we just said, "Can you please watch for this ring?" And they never found it. The kids never came in with it. It never showed up. The house was in really poor shape. Really, the only reason we rented it was because we were buying it from Dean's brother, the house we were buying.
We were buying a house, but they hadn't moved out yet.
Yeah, and so, they opened this house up to us because we needed a place
So
to be.
Dean and Annette owned this house.
Well, Dorothy Hansen owned it, their mother.
But still.
Yeah, but anyway, that's the only reason we got into it. I think we were the last occupants ever in that house. But
Except for the rats and the mice and
in fact, this house did not have indoor plumbing, and so in order to go into the bathroom, they had made it to where it had indoor plumbing, but in order to go into the bathroom, you had to walk around the water heater. So there was only like about the width of a body room to get around it to go into the bathroom. But anyway, it was, it never showed, and I think it was probably 4 or 5 years. And for some reason, the family decided to go in and give it a good, firm cleaning. That might have been when we weren't the last occupants. The Collards went into it for just a little while.
okay.
So Joe and Jackie Collard moved into it, and they wanted to give it a really good cleaning. And there was, in the bathroom, there were cupboards that were glass. You could see inside of them. And they were cleaning that out. And there was a wood separator on the glass, and they wiped up behind that, and out came the ring. So it had been in there all those years, and then they brought it to us. So it's, I think I figured that I had 3 of my children with no ring on my fingers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I was so engrossed in that story that I got.
I'd say, so we heard a little bit about your courtship, your engagement. Describe your wedding day.
Wedding day. Wedding day, I went down to Fountain Green and spent the night at his family's place. Back then, there weren't blow dryers, curling irons, that kind of stuff, so I slept in rollers so that my hair would be good for the wedding. Woke up the next morning and my hair wasn't dry. And the wedding was early in the morning, and we needed to drive down to Manti, and I'm trying to figure out how to make my hair be okay. It did, it turned out fine, but it was kind of a stress point for me. And we actually drove down to the temple together, and
So you saw her with her wedding dress on before the wedding?
no, you put Dawn in the temple.
Oh, okay. All right.
You did see the bride before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we drove down, and as we were rounding the corner in Ephraim to head toward Manti, the sun peeked up over the mountains. And that was, to me, very memorable, that sun peeking over the mountains. Do you have some memories there you want to share before we go to the actual wedding?
You were laughing about writing together. Is there something?
At the reception. That's what I'm thinking about, and that's why it's funny. Do you want me to tell you about the reception?
Yes.
Okay, we're having the reception, and man, I'm looking around and here are all these old buddies, old missionary companions and stuff like that. Aunts, uncles I hadn't seen for quite a while. And so after people go through the line and all that, why, I'm looking around and, I haven't said anything to that guy, or, because I didn't want them to come and think that I hadn't even noticed that they were there.
And I'm going,
And she's giving me the hardest time about, can we leave? I'm going, hey, there's plenty of time. After I although after that the roles totally switched. Then it was, come on, let's go, come on. No, kids are still up, and the dishes aren't washed, and I've had a little bit of a headache. And I'm thinking, boy, how not very long totally changes things.
Anything else that sticks out to you, Dad, about the wedding day?
And while you're thinking of that, yeah, what stood out was just that moment of going around and seeing the sunrise.
Right. I mean, that
While you're
just
thinking,
kind of
just tell
set
me a
the
little bit more
perfect.
about-
Yeah, that just kind of set the perfect environment to me. The beauty of that sunrise, and this was the fall day, so you've got the fall colors.
October 12th.
Mm-hmm. And so anyway, we get down to the temple, and for us, we didn't have very many people in the temple that we knew. Grandma came, and unbeknownst to us, Osmond and Christina Crowther were there. That was just purely coincidence. But they asked if they could, either that or somebody asked if they could come in. So they came into our wedding. Did we have anybody there besides your mom?
I don't think so.
So, you know, in that way, it was kind of a lonely situation. We've got family. I'm very glad that people can get married civilly now before, you know, having their temple marriage and have it be like the same day or the next day, because I think that lets people like my mom and my dad and his siblings that were younger and couldn't come in, you know. I just think that's a really great thing that now we can involve more people in our weddings when we want to go to the temple. So,
Yeah, I remember feeling some hurt because my dad couldn't be there.
Were they outside, the rest of the family? So
Yeah.
your parents, mom were out and everybody.
mhm.
And just for posterity, it was because of a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And my dad was a farmer, and he didn't know how to figure tithing. He didn't know. I wouldn't know how to do it if I were a farmer now, because it's so blurry about what's income, what isn't, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah. And even before the wedding, I was trying to figure out how to, because I wanted him there, and I thought he wanted him there, but it just the conversation never did work. So anyway.
So talk about the really brief interim between getting married and having children and what life was like.
You're what? First, tell them the story of.
When I was in high school, I had a doctor tell me that I would never be able to have children. And so that was part of the conversation we had when we were getting engaged is, you may not be able to have any children with me. And he talked about that he would be okay with adoption. And he said, you know, so we moved forward on that level, but there is something about thinking you're never going to get something that makes you want it really, really, really bad. I think, you know, we would have wanted children anyway, but we really wanted them bad. And there was, I don't know what the test was anymore, I can't remember, but there was some sort of a test that they ran the first month after we got married, and I wasn't pregnant. And I mean, here I am thinking I'm probably not going to get pregnant at all, but when I didn't get pregnant the first month, I just about cried. And
You just about cried?
I think I cried.
Then the emotions came out.
You were emotional and grumpy.
And turns out it was a good thing because we had the twins on the way the second month, and they were born 6.5 weeks early. So it's a little easier to explain away if people want to get snoopy, having babies 8.5 months after you're married. So anyway, but you know, it turned out the doctor was really wrong. They told me I wasn't ovulating, and I was. So.
So we had 6 in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Tell about my entrance and the timing of my entrance into the world.
Let's see.
Triplet.
Jeez.
Triplet.
You want do you want the details? You know,
Family friendly rating here.
we are at this stage in life where we're not quite sure whether we should use birth control, so we're using that birth control called pull out.
Dad's like, I thought this was the family-friendly version. I told you.
Do we get to
I was
edit
hearing
this?
things in this room that we've never heard before.
And pull out didn't work real well.
So how far was it from twins to me?
11 and a half months.
So at that time, I was starting to do traveling with other educators who were going to other places, and I was going with, and then we would go into a school district and present. Anyway, the main guy, he loved to tease me.
This
His name
wasn't then,
Jack.
this was later.
Oh, this is when they were teasing me about having my first
Oh,
Father's Day. The first Father's Day that we were married, she was expecting, but we didn't have kids. There were no kids that we were taking care of. So first Father's Day, expecting but no kids. The next Father's Day, we had 3. So that usually took a little bit of explaining. Right after Father's Day, we got twins, and just before Father's Day, the next year, we got you. So
And
that
just
made 3.
Just as a little human interest story, the twins weighed 8 pounds 12 ounces between them. Janae weighed 9 pounds.
Yes.
Thank heaven's not premature. That is a big thing. Because you were
I was
full,
overdue.
were you full term
I
or?
think I was.
I think she
over.
was due June 1st, and
Okay,
she
so
came
was
June
9 days
10th.
over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Talk about those early years with the babies.
Mm.
Not much sleep. That's mainly what I remember. In fact, what I remember is during lambing, that it was tough anyway because you had to take a shift during the night. So I was teaching school, coming home, helping with the chores, going home, sleeping for a few hours, then going for my shift, then coming back home, sleeping for another hour or 2, and then going to school. And in the midst of that, we had you 3, right?
Regularly waking up.
And we swore it was Brent would wake up and cry. So we'd go in and get him settled down, go back to bed. Bart wake up. They didn't wake up at the same time.
Even though they're in the same room.
And where was she?
She wasn't born at that point.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they were about, I think, 7 months old, and I'm pregnant. We talked to the doctor about the exhaustion and what have you, because I was going in regularly. And he told us about training babies to sleep. And so,
Painful,
yeah, so we
as you know.
had to go into the training babies to sleep, and neither one of us wanted to do what you have to do. We would lay in bed and hold on to each other for dear life while the babies would cry and cry and
They're gonna
cry
quit.
and cry.
They're gonna quit. No, they're gonna hate us for the rest of their lives. They're gonna say, "You wouldn't pick us
Ruining the
up."
parent-child bond.
And at that point, you don't know what affects kids or what doesn't.
Well, why don't you just Google it?
By time we
They didn't have anything in the bookmobile for that. But yeah,
There's no manual.
then, you know, that was bad enough. But then Janae was born, and they were trained to sleep in the night, but she wasn't. But honestly, Janae, she was colicky from the day she came home.
You and me both, huh? Or
Yeah, we-
the two
But
college
you were my 2 nightmares.
But at least when you
We're the
were
ones that are here, for the record.
when you were there, you had older brothers and sisters
To help.
would pack you around.
Which I remember doing. Mom would say, "Do you want dinner tonight?" Hold Devin.
But the thing that was saving grace there was that Janae at least slept through the night. You know, once she just got a little bit older, she basically slept through the night. So we were really busy with 3 babies, but we did get our night's rest. Devin, no, he didn't do that. He stayed awake a lot.
So
So-
the colicky for her was shorter.
Well, she was colicky till she was 7 months old, but she she would go to sleep at night and stay asleep basically. And so, but with you, it was day and night. And, just as a kind of little hindsight thing, Janae quit being colicky when I quit nursing her. So we kind of think she was hungry.
I
'Cause-
do get a little cranky when I'm hungry.
Yeah. we actually kind of thought that, surprise, Dad wanted to go to a Neil Diamond concert. And so we were going to this Neil Diamond concert, and that's too far away to be away from a baby. And so we started trying to get you used to taking the bottle. And as soon as you got that bottle, you wanted nothing to do with nursing. So we're pretty sure you were hungry because about that time you quit being colicky. And so anyway, Devin, it was milk allergy. He had a milk allergy until we found that out. He was colicky. I had to go off all dairy products so that Devin could be healthy.
Thanks, Mom.
So briefly describe, you've talked a little bit about me and Brent and Bart and Deb, but talk a little bit about Carrie and Tamari as babies and how they came.
Carrie Brent and Bart were easy babies. It was just there were 2 of them, but they were easy babies. Carrie, you were 3 years old, so the baby stuff was kind of past, but she was a jewel of a baby, with one exception. She only liked 3 people: Mommy, Daddy, and Grandma. That was it. If anybody else even looked at her, she screamed bloody murder. But as far as just us taking care of her, she was easy. But just don't look at her. And I can remember at that time, I was teaching primary, and Aunt Jackie, was in the nursery taking care of the babies. And Jackie loved the babies, and she didn't have a girl yet, so she really loved carrying. But she learned how to take care of Carrie. She would take her, as soon as she brought her into the room, she would take her and face her to the wall, away from all the other kids seeing her, and put a Raggedy Ann in one arm and a Raggedy Andy in the other arm, and leave her be. And Karen was happy.
Wow.
So that's the way Jackie took care of that. But yeah, she didn't, she was really good, but she didn't like strangers. So, and then Tamari learned that squealing from carrying. So she did a pretty good job of squealing too, but she was pretty even-tempered also, other than that screech that she could let out. So,
Tamari had a screech.
yeah.
Tamalam?
That
Tamalam.
sounds surprising.
Yeah.
Right? She's so, well-mannered.
She learned it.
She was well-mannered, but even then, what I remember about Tamari was what a little soft heart she was. So she was always worried about somebody feeling bad.
At what age did you start noticing that?
I can't remember, but it was,
Pretty young.
she was pretty young, maybe 3 or 4.
Still, that's profound.
Yeah, so we'd always, and we still do, talk about Tamari's feel bad. And
We don't
she's
say it
very
to her anymore
sensitive.
because she was
No.
very sensitive about it, but
Yeah.
she does have that sensitive nature.
And then her blonde little hair was really fine, so we used to call her our little straw head, because her hair was just all, you could fix it, but it didn't take anything but a little whiff of wind, and it would just blow all over, and it looked like straw. It looked like straw.
Yep.
And it
As
would blow
opposed to
around
Karen,
like
who
straw.
had lots of hair from the day she was born.
Yeah.
So,
Talk a little bit about each of the kids. Maybe just start with Brent and just a few key memories growing up. And it's
That
let
could be
each
0 to
of you,
18.
yeah, and let each of you take a turn with each kid. So do
Okay.
each of you do Brent, and then move on to Bart.
Okay.
Do you want to start or do you want me to?
Um, what I remember was that, I had certain perceptions in my head of, I had two boys that were twins. And I can remember working on the farm and in my head, the radio announcer saying, "The Olsen boys bring the ball down the court, and Bart passes it to Brent. Brent passes it to so-and-so, back to Bart. Bart goes in, and he makes a turnaround jump shot, nothing but net. Ball game." Because I loved ball, and so I thought my boys would love ball. So as the boys got older, this is about both of them, but as the boys got older, I started taking them out to play ball. And even in the house, when I'd roll the ball to them or something like that, they'd kind of kick at it and a few things, but it didn't take long before they were jumping up and going and doing something else. And mainly, they both like to play the xylophone, didn't they?
Yeah.
We had a little
They made
tiny
music with their
xylophone.
little, you've seen those little xylophones.
And so then I started going outside to play catch with them and stuff like that. And it would only take 2 or 3 tosses, and they'd say, "Are we done yet?" So I thought, I'm not going to force sports down them. They obviously don't like it. But ding, 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 ding on that xylophone. They love music. So we put our resources into getting them a piano and stuff like that. And then I enjoyed taking them down on the farm, even though they were both allergic to the hay, dust, and stuff like that. There were still things that we could do together, like change the water, move irrigation pipes, which you guys remember. And that's some of my main memories were just being proud of. I remember going to, what was the name of that play they did over at North Hebig High School?
Grease.
Grease. And thinking, wow, they could sing like that? I can't even hum.
That's actually one of my key memories, is going to their performances and looking over at you, and without fail, your chest was puffed up and you had tears in your eyes. You were always.
And that's when I said to myself, it doesn't matter whether it's music or sports, or they were great. They would do really well at the spelling bees, and they did well in school. It doesn't matter what they're doing that's great. It's the fact that they have things that they love, that they're great at.
One of the things I've wondered about, I don't know whether that would have changed their interest in the sport, but being born premature, we learned through the years that a lot depends on where you were born. They were 6.5 weeks early, and one of the key things to 6.5 weeks early is small motor skills. And so things like, how do you catch the ball? There's grip, there's, just lots of things like that they could not manage. And
So it was boring to them.
it was boring, and it was frustrating because, the kids would get together out on the playground to do stuff. And I can remember, I believe it was Bart saying, when he was 29 years old, I finally feel like I've caught up to myself physically. So, those small motor skills just took a huge toll on them. There were lots of things they could do, but that took a toll, and it changed the trajectory of some of the stuff that they would be interested in. So I can remember we potty trained all 3 of our children at the same time, the oldest 3. And in large measure,
That's
that
why
was,
we're a little still potty training 3 kids at the same time.
but Bart and Brent were not ready until they were about 3.5 years old. And by then you were ready. You wanted to join in. But they couldn't, for example, snap up their pants or unsnap them when they needed to. So just things like that made it to where it was an extra challenge for them. Their temperaments were great. It was so funny to see those two. You could lay them on the floor facing each other if I wanted to get something done. And they entertained each other nonstop. They laughed and laughed at each other. And
They do things. I'd say they must be communicating some way and telling each other jokes, because all of a sudden one of them would start just laughing and laughing, and the other one would waha, and that went on for a long time, even when they were 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, where they seemed to have a kind of a communication with each other that they had a way of communicating things that were humorous, and then laughing and then playing off each other. In fact, at times it'd be, will you guys knock it off? It's the middle of church.
I actually have a memory down in the bedroom in the basement. I have the bunk beds, and I remember did we have a little keyboard?
mhm.
I remember them going in and would start clinking out commercials, like the tunes to
Amazing, they could
commercials.
just-
Mhm.
They would just,
They'd listen to it and go figure it out.
And they just figure out how to play the commercial tune
Mhm.
on the keyboard. And I never had that musical talent, but I remember that in them.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
There was a little bit, Brent, school came a little easier for him than it did for Bart, and that took a toll for Bart on his, I think on his self-esteem a little bit, because he would try so hard, and he was always just a notch under where Brent was, So that was frustrating. But, all in all, I think they got along pretty well. But, as they got older, I think they were glad to spread their wings apart and see what they could do separately.
yeah, because there's a lot of, especially in a small town, people just tying twins together. It's the
They always
twins.
had to be in the same school.
Not much individuality, huh?
Yeah, they were in the same classroom all through elementary school. In 6th grade, we requested that they have separate classes just so that they could have some space, 7th grade, that's when they start going, so they're still in the same classes sometimes. And I don't remember which teacher it was, but I would love to have seen it. But something happened that triggered one or the other, and that one was on top of the other, like this. And the teacher marched them right out of the office, right out of the classroom down to the office and said, put these 2 kids in different classes. They needed their space. So,
And then their love for music and their ability to play it was so good that we knew we had to do whatever it took to get a piano. So we got one, and in that little house of the Hansons that we bought, it was, they learned how to become excellent at the piano, but of course it didn't happen overnight. So when the piano first came in, I remember times thinking, I wish the walls were just a little bit thicker, because we'd be trying to sleep a little bit, and the kids would get up and go in there and start playing on the piano. In fact, if anything, that was a source of, it's my turn. No, you've had your turn. You had your minutes. Well, none. And they'd go back and forth. But just recently, I was sitting in church, and Bart was playing the organ. And I was sitting there thinking, with tears in my eyes, I sure am glad we got them what they needed to, because if I had been able to picture what I just heard from him playing that organ, I'd have known, okay, it's all going to be worth it. But of course, then you just
don't know.
you don't know. You hope, and the main thing was that they were happy doing that. But as far as telling them, you got to go in and practice the piano.
the hardest
No.
part with them is if we
You never
needed to,
had do that.
well, the hardest part with them is if we needed to discipline them. The only thing that really mattered is if we took the piano away. Who's going to take the piano away? But that's all that mattered.
Wow.
Okay, I'd like to move on to Janae now.
Okay.
Janae came with her own ideas. She was very strong-willed. And Brent and Bart had to learn how to play with dolls or they didn't have friends. If you won't play dolls with me, you're not my friend. So she would have her own little ways of doing that. She made sure that they understood that they were her little brothers.
I never knew that.
She was kind of bossy with them, and they put up with it. Janae loved to be frilly, and this was in an era where frilly was stylish, and she loved to be frilly. I think my favorite frilly dress was her little orange checkered one. Do you remember the pictures of that one?
Ladybugs.
Uh-huh.
Buttons.
And it was solid orange underneath, and then the checkers, orange white checkered on the top. And she was definitely a girl's girl. Always wanted her hair long. I don't remember what the circumstance was, but there was a time, I think maybe it was in an era when people liked to get their hair permed.
Oh, I remember this.
And she had to get her hair cut a little shorter because of damage and cry and cry and
I
cry.
remember standing in the shower sobbing.
Oh, she was
How
so
old
sad.
must you have been at that time?
I would guess 7. I don't know how close I am on
That's
that.
probably about right. But yeah, she was definitely a girly girl. But she was good to go down to the farm and work on the stuff down there too, Not necessarily liking it, but she would do it.
Dad appreciated it.
Yeah. And
Even when the pipes, as they slid together, you had the one on the one end had to push, and the one on the other end had to lift up the latch so that the pipe could go in and then hook it back together, then pull it back out so that it would catch, and when the water went through, it didn't, And was it you and Karine?
The finger? I'm pretty sure that was one of the boys.
I think it
But
was-
I think I did the push. I think
I
that's
think it
You
was
did
Bart,
the
I think
push
it was
on one of
Bart
the
that got
boys?
it.
And I think Bart's got the finger caught, but I felt like it was my fault
Mm.
because I had done the push.
Yeah.
And there was probably a little rivalry going on because there was that quite often, And
So maybe
so-
I pushed sooner than he said push, and then
Yeah, and the slightest little thing, but it was such a big help to me, and I'll never forget the feeling I had as we would pick up a whole, let's see, there were like 5 or 6 pipe in a row, and not even have to take them apart and just go up, and then walk the 60 feet, and then put them back down.
line them up with the
Line them up
jug.
with the posts down here so that the sprinklers were straight and it was getting an even sprinkling of water. And seeing my kids getting to the point where they were helping and really working together. And sometimes they'd even say, wow, look how good that hay is growing, or we did that all by ourselves, didn't we, Dad? And we'd see how fast we could change a bunch of sprinklers and things like that. They were really helpful. Brenda and Bart and Janae. By the time Karine started getting old enough, we were.
Well, she did some of it, but
she
we
did
were
some.
we moved when she was in 9th grade, so
So anyway, it was.
I remember one time when I think it was a tractor. Did we have to push a clutch in or something to make it stop? And I would have to stand up and put my full body weight to make that clutch go down and stop. And I remember I'd just stand there on the clutch until Dad said, okay, and then I'd let the clutch up and the tractor would roll, and then stand up and put my whole body weight on the clutch.
Yeah, but it was very helpful because that's when we were lifting the sprinkler pipe, putting it on the trailer, and so she'd stop while we put the pipe on the trailer, and then she'd pull the tractor up to the next pipe, that we would load on and those kinds of things. I got to tell one other story about her while we're thinking about it, and that is where we lived. There was a kind of a little gravel pull-up place, and until we got up on top of the cement, and she was learning to drive, and we had all of our cars were clutches, and the clutch, so when you're starting up it, you got to put just enough gas on and let the clutch out slow enough so that the car switches from being stopped to moving forward because the clutch is out far enough. And Janae trying to learn how to do that on gravel uphill. And she finally went, Dad, I just can't do this clutch. I said, yes, you can. Yes, you can. I'll get in with you, and she was worried about putting the gas too far and things like that, but she learned how to do it, and
Won Ryan over with that.
Ryan was
I was
really
impressed.
impressed with learning how to drive a clutch.
and the other experience was we had gone somewhere and to stay overnight at an educational
It was up in
conference.
Idaho.
It was up in Idaho, and we got this phone call, and we were in the motel, and it was Janae. I hit a deer coming down the canyon with the truck, and the worst part, when I got out, I looked at the front, and there was a cat on the front, and it was eating some of the flesh and.
To me, that was just devastating.
Was it shallow or just a random cat?
It was eating the hair and some of the stuff that
I
was,
think it was actually right after the innards.
or the innards. But anyway,
Anything that
I said, "Don't worry about it, Janae. That truck has been needing a new grill and a number of things, and I was just going to redo it anyway." And so, but she was a little tender heart on.
And as a side note, you still have that truck.
Exactly.
I still have that truck. Yeah.
Another one I would like to remember, which of you guys, maybe you don't know, but who started Puppy Power Cliffs?
It was the three of us. I don't remember of the three of us, but we loved going up. It's up Fairview Canyon where Dad would be
Herding
running
sheep.
And right behind the camp trailer, there was this rocky cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And even in August, it would still have snow on it.
Yep.
And we would run up to that cliff and play in the snow in August. And somehow we had a little dog. I don't
There was
know.
always a little sheepdog.
It
Was
a
in
little
training.
Dog that was
Yeah.
in training, and the dog would run with us up there. And as we would run to it, we would yell, "Puppy Power Cliffs!" And so we just wanted to go play on Puppy Power Cliffs. So I don't remember which of the three of us started it.
Yeah, it was a fun thing. Always known from then on as Puppy Power Cliffs.
Yeah.
So, and there were some good experiences herding sheep too. I remember the time when they were draining the water from the Cleveland into the, which way did they drain?
Out of the Cleveland down into the electric lake, and so they'd have to shut it off, and then where the creek was the deepest, there'd be pools of water that the fish would be trapped in because they couldn't get out because there was too much rock around them, so they just swim around in these little pools right in the creek.
And that was our best fishing. Dad could just walk up to the pool and
Dunk,
pop fish out of the
hit
water.
them with a rock or with my hand, flip them out on the ground, and
then we'd have a good fish fry.
Clean them up, we have a fish fry.
So
Okay.
We got through, let's see.
Is it time? What's
we've
the
got
thing?
7 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. All
Let's
right.
go on to
So I was gonna say, we have,
Okay.
we heard a little bit about Karen, but a couple other things, and there's no way you're gonna cover everything about each
We'll
of the kids,
be,
but yeah.
I mean,
What are a couple things
What
that-
we say we come back again, right? I love this.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, carrying, she beat Janae. She was 9.5 pounds. So
Spoiler, someone else beat.
Biggest kid we had.
but yeah, she was 9.5 pounds and had to be induced. She did not want to come on her own. But she was a beautiful baby from the day she was born. She had thick, curly black hair and had a sweet little disposition, which was wonderful because we had 3 babies. Well, you weren't all babies then, but you were still really young, so it was just good to have a baby with a good disposition. We had so many people that fussed over her. But again, they better fuss over her from a distance because she'd scream at them if they. But they choose to say, "Oh, she's such a beautiful baby."
Are we seeing some parallels between this and Kinley as
Yes.
a baby?
Yes. But that reminds me of something. Before they started doing churches all together on Sunday, we would have church at, Sunday morning would be the men's priesthood meeting, and then Sunday school in the morning later. Then sacrament meeting in the afternoon, and midweek was primary and Relief Society and that kind of stuff. Well, when I would come to Relief Society with my 3 babies, none of them could walk. Brent and Bart didn't walk till they were about 15 months old, maybe 16 months old. And so I would come hauling in 2 babies, and usually left you in the car, Janae, because you were the one that didn't know you got left. But I'd take the 2 babies in, and it was really pretty precious because I would walk in with those 2 babies and women would just jump up and grab them. And then I'd run out to the car and get you. So it was fun to see how people pulled together to help me with that so that I could participate in those things. But now back to carrying. Are there special memories of carrying?
Yes. Her ability to, she was just really quick at learning to read, and she could memorize like crazy. So, and she loved to put in Disney movies like Little Mermaid.
And memorize them.
And she could say the whole movie's script ahead of the movie. She knew what was coming up, so you could pause it and say, "What are they going to say next?" Blah 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 blah. And she'd sing along with the songs, and then I realized she was starting to read when we would take books that we were reading to her, and we would be reading along, and all of a sudden, you know how you turn the page? You turn the page and you go reading, and she'd go, "Dad, you skipped a page." "How do you know?" "Well, turn it back. It says blah, blah, blah." I'm thinking, wow, she's memorized it. No, she knew how to read from being read to. I mean, they were not difficult books by any means, but they were not Run Dick, Run Jane like I was brought up on. And so it was just amazing at how quickly she picked up reading and memorizing and stuff like that.
Even speaking. I remember
even
she said her
speaking, oh my
first
gosh.
sentence when she was 9 months old. Full sentence.
It was a sentence she'd heard us say.
It's almost like me.
Yeah.
You know, Devin, who would go up to a sink and go, eh, eh, eh. The doctor would say, he can speak, but he has to learn to speak. He has to be forced to speak, so he can't just point and say, He has to say, You make him say, "I want a drink of water." And when we did that over some time, he got to where he learned that if he was going to get a drink of water, he had to ask for it.
Along the lines of reading with Carrie, I have a memory that she and I would sit down with a novel because we would both want to
I
read the
remember
same
you guys
book,
doing that.
and we would read
Stop.
over each. We'd read the book at the same time because we were the same
Had pretty much the same speed.
speed. And so we'd get to it and we'd give a little tip, which meant turn the page, and we would read the book at the same time.
That was one of your favorite Sunday activities. Yeah.
Love that.
So we have 2 minutes left. I don't know if you want us to try to think of more on caring. There's not enough time really to share much on Tamarie at this
We
point.
could do town and me on the next one.
Yeah. So
Maybe any closing thoughts or things that you want to share in the last 2 minutes? What do we think?
Yeah.
50 seconds.
there's a great little experience. Maybe I shared it last time. I'm not positive, but with Karen, she at the stage where she didn't like anybody but her grandma and mom and dad. We went to a family reunion at a place called Paradise Resort in Idaho, and all of a sudden, she's following my grandmother around everywhere, and I'm going, what is the deal? She's following her around. And I mentioned it to my grandma after it happened. It was a 3-day reunion after it happened a while, and she's, well, I know why. And I said, why? And she's, well, I wanted more children than just your dad. But I couldn't have my own children, but I kept having my dream of this little girl running around in a yellow flower field.